Hello and good day. My name is Roxy Shohajai and I am here excited to share with you all. We're doing a live stream today with Helena Sheridan, and this is a part of the Living Systems Collaboratory Spotlights, which we're doing to spotlight some of the incredible artists who are within this program. A little bit about the Design Science Studio. The Design Science Studio is an educational incubator for art that empowers creators to imagine a regenerative future. Inside of the Design Science Studio, in partnership with the Emergent Media DesignLab at the University of California, Irvine, we created the Living Systems Collaboratory, which is a program that provided funding for artists and designers to support the development of creative projects that explore living systems. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from and having a beautiful conversation with Helena Sheridan from Fanplastic. She's a creative systems thinker, project coordinator, and futurist with a wide scope of experience in marketing and event and production logistics, leading from big crews to erect temporary towns in the middle of nowhere to building junk rafts and cruising down the Rio Ebrio in the name of conservation. I am one of your biggest fans, Helena, and I'm so excited about your presentation today. So just let me know when you're ready and I will add your video to the stream and we can get started.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to try keep my talking and my amateur video skills in the same timing, but you can share that screen.
Okay, great.
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as Roxy said, my name is Helena. I am a South African that was born right at the start of the beginning of apartheid. No, I was born at the beginning of the end of apartheid. I'm a solutionist, a future prepper, and a community coordinator. From the 1% of personality types, an INFJ and a middle brain thinking middle child. I am grateful for every adventurous, compassionate ancestor, for my unique journey and the experiences that have brought me here, now, at an opportunity to fulfill my inherent desire to break down walls and defy stereotypes in order to facilitate diverse and unexpected networks. I had learned much about small community management through my position at the head of Africa Burn's Department of Public Works. Africa Burn is the world's biggest Burning Man regional. It takes place in the Tankwa Karoo, 140 kilometers of prehistoric ocean floor between the site and the nearest town or cell phone reception. And my job was coordinating a crew of international volunteers that had signed up to live and work in the desert for months, building, maintaining, and breaking down public infrastructure for a temporary town of thousands. I was essentially working in non-linear living systems before I'd even ever considered the terms. So I was an event coordinator, and at the start of 2020, my calendar was full of big event productions and art builds to roll out. Why is this not? COVID obviously then hit and our industry was prohibited and my video is freezing. Yes, okay. So when COVID hit, there was this new concept of lockdown and due to a pandemic, which was a very scary global scenario. But it also finally provided me with time and space to explore some ideas that we had wanted to explore for a long time. During the first most daunting lockdown, the economic and social knock-on of the pandemic was very evident, as most South Africans were living hand-to-mouth day-to-day before the normal day-to-day was cancelled. As we were playing witness to the system falling apart, the logistics and coordinator in me got going. Our first plan had involved a network of gardens where some people contributed land and others labor, but everyone went to bed with full stomachs. And realizing that our art collection of skills was randomly relevant to the unique scenario at hand, 2 former colleagues on DPW and I established Platform, a non-profit company with the vision of providing a platform for projects and ideas that works for everyone. And meanwhile, my partner Ray had been religiously following Dave Hackens, the hands-on visionary behind Precious Plastics, and I had never really stopped connecting the world through spider diagrams. So our plan started to come together as a sort of precious plastic operation adjusted to the specific needs of the South African milieu. When one day a friend sent me a link to this design science studio thing. Reading the application, I felt equal parts overwhelmed and inspired. Half of it was way over my head, while the other half spoke directly to my soul. So it was with a rough idea and a doodle that I got a spot in the first design science studio of the design science decade. And through the guidance of the studio and the involvement through every session, this has developed into a dense framework for a new model of success for developing nations. The first giant leap for my concept came when I heard about Sandra Kwak's concept of a fourth world standard. It ignited me the notion that we need to drastically change what people perceive as being successful, and we need to do it now. Kwak's concept flips the script on global sustainable economic development, because if everyone chased the American dream as seen on TV, we would quickly consume 5 planets worth of resources. But we can be inspired by this because it creates the opportunity for developing nations to completely leapfrog the stage of development as found in the first world and get to a much more fulfilling future without having to go through the growing pains. I quote, "There are opportunities for developing clean energy, clean water, economic systems and permaculture jobs that completely shift local economies and create economic self-reliance." Few things have resonated with me as clearly as the immediate realization that day that South Africa is the ideal place for developing this concept. This opportunity to learn from the mistakes made en route to being developed and to take only what works as we build into the future. Just want to try. South Africa, with our unique clash of first world class cities that has at the same time top tourism awards and huge sprawling townships, and our vast, remote, underdeveloped rural areas, a diverse mix of cultures and ancestry, and it provides us many opportunities for future development as there are problems rooted in the injustices of our past. So with the focus on South Africa's unique dilemmas, I started to explore ways for local communities to operate and function. Because if your national government is failing you, it's time to tackle problems on a local level with locals at the helm. If your public services are non-existent, mobilize and incentivize people to service themselves. And if unemployment is an ever-increasing problem, while the minimum wage fails to sustain the majority of the population, we need to start looking for new ways to educate, upskill, employ, and feed those in need. The picture, based on the specific small community that I was researching and engaging with, started to come together for me when the design science studio asked us if our projects by any chance fell under the scope of the Living Systems philosophy. So I researched everything I could about living systems, and getting the concept included into the collaboratory and gaining access to the vital financial aid of the grant allowed me deeper understanding and wider expansion of the system, which will undoubtedly be hugely beneficial come implementation phase. I just want to... Mansoor Vakili's teachings and philosophy, the way his brain works and his unwavering hope for humanity to get it right has helped me to overcome a lot of stumbling blocks in this project. Now, rather than seeing myself as stepping in to solve a new South Africa's problems, I've been able to shift my perspective from linear step-by-step problem thinking to more connected systems thinking approach. The model I'm currently exploring is more integrative, more cooperative, and has a more holistic long-term objectives. As a coordinator, I make sense of chaos and facilitate others towards their unique and optimal place in a network, a model or framework that is ever-changing and evolves organically. It's a sort of choose your own adventure, a journey that depends on the needs, wants, priorities, and visions of every individual and the community as a whole. So I explore the South African dream as a fractal of the whole human dream. Envision a community that finds purpose and possibility in plastic graveyards, landfill mining for the 7th resource, turning waste into products and tools as part of a local beneficiation program, while employing the people to make the things that the people need. It's a circular community with an ever-decreasing carbon footprint, a place that revives nature, growing food seasonally and organically and in cooperation with neighbors, so that there's enough of everything for everyone and nothing is wasted. It runs on an operating system that I call the Solutionist Formula. The Solutionist Formula is a mix of the most relevant of our combined ancestral knowledge, sustainable advancement, and success stories from the developed world. We need to urgently shift the perception of jobs in waste management. On Spaceship Earth, services like landfill mining and the crew working to provide our species with this chance of survival on a planet that we've made almost uninhabitable for ourselves within just 2 generations needs to be highly regarded and rewarded positions. The COVID-19 pandemic has done much for the appreciation and validation of essential service workers, but now the time has arrived for us to move beyond applause from balconies and memes of praise to implement new systems that financially reward those doing the most necessary of dirty work for the benefit of us all. This newfound respect for human effort and input needs to be reflected in newfound economic models. Because as Buckminster Fuller famously said, to change something, we need to build a new model and make the existing obsolete. I think we should take the best practices from the existing model before we make it obsolete and build it and build onto that for necessary change, because something is seldom just bad. So when we start to imagine the possible products and infrastructure that we can produce with the community's waste for the community's needs, we need to do thorough investigation, research and development in order to do much more with much less. We need to rethink squares and explore hexagons, consider domes instead of existing low-cost model housing, and produce products inspired by biomimicry and infrastructure that is inclusive for all. Because once we compare notes on the best of our ancestral knowledge and exchange skills taught down for generations, we can build together towards a future that works for all. Because the more I learned about Buckminster Fuller, the more I saw that in South African history, whether you look at the shapes of the temporary grass shelters of the oh wow, hold on. Here we go. Because the more I learned about Buckminster Fuller, I saw that in our history, whether you look at the shapes of the temporary grass shelters of the nomadic hunter-gatherers that roamed in the west, the huts of the tribes that fled south to settle on the east coast, or the canopies of the wagons of the groups that set off north in search of something of their own, South Africans never really worked in straight lines. And for a seemingly unrelated project, I did some research into the beneficial plants of the Cape Floral Kingdom, and also found a biome of which 2/3 are found nowhere else on Earth. This research revealed that almost every culture that has lived and evolved at the southern tip of Africa had found multiple medicinal uses for most of those unique plants. For generations and generations, Sangomas, Xhosa Sangomas, Zulu Gogos, and colored aunties or Afrikaans omas have all made concoctions from leaves and stems to treat ailments, cure colds and coughs and more. Whether they called it Koigodom Pepu, there is a wealth of ancestral knowledge that expands exponentially when we compare notes across cultures. But that research also highlighted the fact that Fanboss is so valuable because it is under immense threat. Due to no small part in monoculture agriculture invading alien plant species and human development or urban sprawl. And that if we want to ensure that this unique and valuable resource is still available for future generations, we need to not only teach the skills and findings, but also preserve and actively regenerate the biome. We cannot solve the world's problems in isolation or without context of other problems. And in the shift to non-linear thinking, we realize that networks are complex and collaborative, and sustainable systems need to use resources so that everyone benefits, while it continuously restructures, repairs, and regenerates itself to stay relevant. So the successful model of the future South African community gardens not only to grow food and medicinal herbs, but also to revive indigenous vegetation and preserve the local floral kingdom. They do not only repurpose the waste that they produce, but they walk into the veld and they step into the rivers to pick up and responsibly dispose of what has already been dumped there. And while we might be launching projects this week, my work is an ongoing mission to map these complex relationships and study and express the patterns, to apply lessons and processes from living systems like the body network into the human network of politics and economics, to strive to develop systems that can evolve higher consciousness as it creates purpose from the current state of chaos. I hope that through the exploration of this launch, we will gain access to funding and partnerships in order to further explore the concept by means of practical implementation in many communities. Because it all starts with a few machines and a business plan that incentivizes people to clean up their environment with direct reward for waste. And it can only advance through dignity fostered by living in cleaner conditions and self-worth by means of providing for yourself and your dependents. Because you cannot educate someone on an empty stomach. And the dazzle of art is dulled by the lack of basic services. And once everyone's primal needs are taken care of, it opens up a whole world of possibility for empowerment. That's when we initiate collaboration with members of the program to envision and create big public art pieces that informs and raises awareness while creating jobs through the building process. And then we start to chip away at walls built between cultures over years of segregation and othering, so that we may collaborate and focus on common goals. This multi-dimensional, non-linear living system model needs us to act now, to consider, address, and learn from the failures of the past in order to facilitate a brighter future. To conclude, I think that from a design science studio point of view, my work asks, how does one keep up with the future generation of changes? How can we shift our aspirations from fame and fortune, fast fashion, and consumerism to cooperation, sustainable habits, and tiny footprints? And what is aspirational in a 2030 that works for 100% of life? Thank you. I can't hear you, Roxy.
I'm just chatting it up by myself over here. I was saying no stress. It was wonderful, and the video was only a little laggy, so I wouldn't be too worried. What's the best way for people to support you at this stage?
I would say take a look at our website, platform.org.za. Through there, we're trying
Will you say it again? I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
We're moving into a phase of sort of gathering data, case studies. We've got potential investors, but they give out small grants in rands, and really the stumbling block at the moment is the startup costs of having to build machines. And only once we have the machines, we can show people tangible products and things of what we can do. So, yeah, to have a look at our website and see what we're in more detail, what we've been working on, and any feedback, any support, any links to organizations or anyone that would be giving out sort of money that they don't expect back in money, because really what we want to do is social profit and environmental impact, and not really make a financial profit.
Wonderful. Yeah, if you can even just screen share it again, the website, I'll put it in the chat as well for all the viewers standing by. And yeah, it's so incredible to get to witness through your process how you've integrated this framework. And I think you spoke beautifully to how it translated within your creative work and how it transformed your approach. So again, I'm going to put your link in the chat here so that anyone watching can click on it and go explore and help out. And so I just wanted to connect with you a little bit more around what did you need to do in your own approach? Like, what changed in you while you were in this developmental process that helped you shift to a more nonlinear systemic process? It sounded like when you were sharing just now that it was a process of practice. Is that accurate?
The Design Science Studio in many ways helped me just sort of move out of my notebooks and into a space of being able to engage and talk about it. I've always been very much lots of ideas and then not do anything with those ideas, and then see someone else do it and then maybe think I could have done it better, but I didn't do it. So a lot of what the studio did was just sort of give me the confidence to say, firstly, I am an artist, where, making spider diagrams, I never thought of it as being art, but the way that I think and connect things and create networks and patterns between things, that is the art, and that is where we make things visible to people in a different way, where we make possible plans, where we make something that seems like unreachable seem like there are steps to take to get there. And the Living Systems Collaboratory, like I said, the way Mansoor Vakili thinks and connects things just showed me that, at some stage I was a little bit like, not wanting to be the white savior, like as an Afrikaner. How do I step in to want to try save the problems of the new South Africa? But it showed me that I am just one particle in the living system, and my role is important, and then my role is exactly that, is creating the network and showing everyone else where their role and their specific place in it is, So yeah, definitely a lot of help. Every week, every session, every visionary has helped me to expand it in some way.
Yeah, and I love that. It really has been such an incredible learning process, even for us. Every different session, really learning from and with these visionaries. And Mansoor truly has such a commitment, as you said, to helping us really see almost the deep simplicity. That's one of the things he was always reminding us, that there's actually a deep simplicity in living systems. And I'm curious, what do you think about that? And how did that help you take the complexity and refine it? Was there anything from that that simplicity of living systems that helps to simplify your approach, and also just clarify this integrated network of which you are an incredibly important part?
Absolutely. I actually said it to him once. It's almost like when he explains these very complex things that's on an academic level that I didn't think I would understand. It's like there's something there that, as in my soul, just makes sense and is actually so simple. The way we should be living, and the as humans and working together and on this planet, we've been so far removed from it. But when you start to think of it in the way that he does, or as a living system, it starts to make sense as sort of such a simple solution. And the hard work actually is just breaking down the layers and layers of stuff that's come between the very simple solution at the end of the day. Yeah.
I wrote something down that you said, because you cannot educate anyone on an empty stomach. And that's so important and so real. And I really just want to applaud and honor your approach. It's so holistic. And as someone who's also such a nerd for the precious plastics movement and what it can bring as far as, turning trash into treasure and helping us to reframe our relationship with our resource and our relationship with this actually incredible resource, but it's just not being harnessed in the proper way. And we have now such a plethora of it. We need to do something with it. But all of this is not fraught if we're not also just tending to the basic needs of creating the safety that we need to feel geared up and tooled up to actually move forward and learn together. And so how are you feeling about beginning to prototype in this time? What are some of the first steps that your team is taking or has already taken? I know you have so much experience with DPW already, and I'm sure those crews would be so ecstatic to be a part of something that would last longer than our beautiful times in the desert. And then how does this all sort of weave in with that work?
No, absolutely. I mean, the precious plastic model is amazing and it's there, but it's for us adjusting it to the economics milieu in which we find ourselves. And with that, really, it is about, with local beneficiation, essentially turning because at the moment, plastic recycling is not a viable first income opportunity, because you'll spend your whole day picking up plastic and not make enough to eat at the end of the day. So for us, it's really about upping the value of something, or turning that kg of plastic that's not worth much if you just hand it in, turning it on the spot and in the community into a product that's worth a lot more, so that you can trickle down the economic value of it, and therefore make cleaning up the environment a viable economic model. So yeah, for us, it's literally now about the basic startup costs of getting just machinery and putting, because also we want to educate people along the whole way, how to put together the machine, how the parts work, so that you can also continuously upskill people in the process. So that would be our first next step. We've been cutting up plastic with secateurs and melting it in our oven at home, trying to just sort of get a feel for it. But really now we need the product in hand to give people a tangible thing and idea of what it is that we want to be doing. So that's our next step. And yes, I've got all the people and all the skills, but we've been hit hard. You know, most of my friends working in events means we haven't really worked for a year. So we really want to do good, but we now need some magical investment to make it happen.
Well, I'm so excited to continue to spread the message of your work to the ends of the earth, and let's pull it in. Let's find the right people, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked about your project, even in the last 4 weeks. So keep at it, and wish we had more time to talk, but I think this is a great point to pause. Thank you so much for your commitment to this work and for sharing your process, because your process is the project, and the journey that you've taken, and saying yes to something that you couldn't necessarily fully see all the way, and then sharing that journey and how far it's taken you into being this incredibly important, essential node in this system that you're transforming, as a beacon of inspiration for the world. Thank you, Helena.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity and everything you've done for this whole journey.
You're welcome. It's my honor. More soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Danke.